Hello students, welcome to my channel. In this series of videos, we'll be discussing about CAT exam in detail. What is the eligibility criteria for writing CAT examination and what is the syllabus for it, what is the examination pattern, and is it tough to crack CAT examination, and what should we do to get 99 percentile or 100 percentile. We will be discussing all those things in detail. But before that, CAT examination and some of the other entrance exams that we are going to discuss in this series of videos will give you an admission to an MBA college. Why there is so much demand for an MBA? Because it imparts a very good skill set to the candidates. It gives you 360-degree view of business. What I mean by that is, suppose if you take a candidate without MBA, probably he or she may be very good at marketing, or maybe good at finance, maybe good at operations or supply chain management, but they will be specialized only in their area. But an MBA graduate will have an understanding of all these areas. They will be trained about finance. They will be given inputs about marketing, you know, management things, operations. They will get this 360-degree view of business. That is the reason there is so much demand for MBA course. Even there is so much demand for MBA graduates from the industry. You have wide range of career choices. MBA is one course, that doesn't limit you to one particular sector. An MBA graduate can get into any of those sectors, any of those industries, because the person who has done MBA has, as I said, has 360-degree view of business and accelerated career progression. Normally, an MBA graduate, first of all, when he or she enters the industry, they will be entering at not normally always at the entry level, they will be entering at middle level management or so. So the career progression will be very fast. And MBA also trains people to develop entrepreneurial skills. Most of the MBA colleges have entrepreneurial cells. They encourage candidates to be entrepreneurs. And MBA is one course. It's like all weather course. It's like whenever you have downturn in the economy, but MBA gives you that assured career or job opportunities there. I can tell you, I've seen three major downturns in economy in the last 25 years. I've been taking classes for CAT and other entrances for the last 25 years. I've seen three major downturns. The first one is the dot-com bubble burst or 9/11 Twin Towers blast. Post that, lot of dot-com companies went burst, and a lot of candidates, especially the software guys, they lost jobs. But the candidates with MBA, I think still they could get very good placements. And the major thing in this 21st century is the subprime crisis that shook the world in 2007, and post 2007, that economic recession and all that. Lot of institutions have gone bankrupt. Some of those institutions like Lehman Brothers and all this, they become extinct. They are no more. Lot of banks collapsed. So there was so much turmoil all over the world in finance. But yes, MBA candidates still good get some good opportunities there. And the present scenario that we talk about, COVID pandemic, where there's so much uncertainty, but still MBA colleges could place their candidates with good salary packages. And this is one course that gives you very high pay package. It's a very good compensation that an MBA graduate gets when he gets into a job. So then what is the average salary packages? In the next part, we'll be discussing about the average salaries that some of those last year batches have got placed. If you look at the average salaries in lakhs per annum, in rupees lakhs per annum, we'll start with IIM Ahmedabad. IIM Ahmedabad last year, the average salary, the mean salary of the batch is 26.1 lakhs. IIM Bangalore, it's at 26.12 lakhs. IIM Calcutta 27.9 lakhs, and IIM Lucknow 24.3 lakhs. And one more important point is, apart from the mean salaries that I'm talking about, the kind of companies that visit these campuses, you have all the top Fortune 500 companies that will be coming there. And one more thing is, quite a few students will have more than one offer to choose from. They will have multiple offers. So it's not that companies choose the candidates, it's candidates also will be choosing the companies there. So it's like the kind of opportunities that you have apart from the salary, that is tremendous. And I am Indore got an average salary of 22.9 lakhs. Candidates from I am Kozhikode batch has got 23.1 average salary. This is even the in the middle of all this pandemic I'm talking about. And if you look at some of the non-IIMs, XLRI Jamshedpur had placed people at an average salary of 24.3 lakhs, TIS Mumbai around 21.5, SPJ in Mumbai 26.7 lakhs, FMS Delhi is placed people at 25.6 lakhs. And some of the IITs are also offering MBA course. They also, some of the IITs place the people really well. IIT Bombay around 21 lakhs and IIT Delhi it's around 22 point lakhs, 9 lakhs. So this is the kind of salaries in the, people get at a very early age. So that's what happens in MBA. You have an accelerated career. You will have really uh, with a very good package when you are in 20s. Probably some of the candidates may not be of that. Suppose if I say I am Ahmedabad, the mean salary is 26.1 lakhs. Probably the average age of them may not be 26.1 lakhs. I mean 26.1 years, right? So that is something you can understand what is the kind of push this MBA course will give to your careers there. So the next one is fine. We talked about why MBA is important. Then what are the top MBA colleges? I've given a few of them here, but what are the top MBA colleges in India? In the next part, we will talk about it. So the top MBA colleges in India, the top B schools in India are obviously we'll start with IIMs. There are 20 IIMs. They offer combinedly they offer more than 5,000 seats, which is a good number of seats. And where are they located? We have Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Kolkata, Lucknow, Indore, Kozhikode, Shillong. These are some of those older IIMs. Then six more were added to this list, like Raipur, Ranchi, Rohtak, Trichy. Raipur in Chhattisgarh, Ranchi in Jharkhand, Rohtak in Haryana, Trichy in Tamil Nadu, Udaipur in Rajasthan, Kashipur in Uttarakhand. And then we have Nagpur in Maharashtra, Vishakhapatnam, Andhra Pradesh, Jammu in Jammu, and Bodh Gaya, Bihar, Sambalpur in Orissa, Amritsar in Punjab, and finally Sirmaur in Himachal Pradesh. These seven IIMs have been the latest addition to the list of IIMs there. And some of the candidates will have a doubt: should we take admission to these new IIMs or baby IIMs? Some people call it. Please remember, when you're looking at a career of 30, more than 30 years, see, this brand value this IIM carries to your 30 plus years career is huge. See, the point is, after 10 years, probably today you may say that these are the new IIMs, but after 10 years, people will not say that you're passed out from IIM, say Lucknow, you're passed out from IIM Bodh Gaya. See, you're an IIM graduate. So that's something that is very important thing that you should keep it in mind, right? So these are the IIMs, the 20 IIMs that I'm talking about. Then next, uh, the non-IIMs. What are the other B schools, MBA colleges that are very good in India? Obviously, we'll start with XLRI Jamshedpur, which is the first private B school in India, and it's as good as any of the IIMs. In fact, the XLRI Jamshedpur's HR program is not just among the best in India; it's among the best in Asia. And TIS Mumbai actually gives an MA degree, not MBA degree, but still that MA degree is worth uh, hundreds of times than a normal MBA from some local college. Because, as I said in the previous part, the average salary in that last year batch was around 27 point, 21 point some lakhs, right? So next, SPJ in Mumbai is a good B school. In fact, it gives you some specialized MBAs like operations, systems, then marketing, finance kind of things. JPIM, Jamnalaj Bajaj Institute. Then what are the top B schools in India which are non-IIMs? we have to obviously start that with XLRI Jamshedpur, because it's one of the oldest B school, private B schools in India, and it's in fact its HR program is not just the best in India, it's the best, one of the best in among in the entire Asia, I can say. And then TIS Mumbai actually offers an MA degree, but that MA degree is worth 1,000 times better than a normal MBA degree you get in a local college. As you have seen already, TIS Mumbai also places people at more than 20 lakhs average salary. And SPJ in Mumbai is a very good B school. JBIMS, that is Jamnalaj Bajaj Institute of Management Studies, Mumbai, it's good. FMS Delhi is a very good. In fact, the return on investment for FMS Delhi is very good because it comes under the Delhi University. The fee is very less. The fee is very less. So, but if you see, it's again getting placements of more than 20 lakhs. So, FMS Delhi is a very good B school. IFT Delhi and MDA Gurgaon, IMT Ghaziabad, NITI Mumbai, especially for engineer and looking for engineering based management degree, I think NITI Mumbai is a very good B school. In fact, it has programs which are tailor made for the industry there. And ISB Hyderabad, of course, is one of the very good B schools from Hyderabad. And then as I said in the earlier session, IITs are also offering MBA, especially IITs from IITs Mumbai, Delhi, Kharagpur, even Chennai. They get their students placed really well. And NMMS Mumbai, that is Narsi Monji Institute in Mumbai, they have campuses in other cities also, but Mumbai campus is really good. Similarly, Symbiosis Institutes like SIBM Pune, SMHRD, these are very good B schools. Similarly, Symbiosis also have got B schools in other cities, Bangalore, Hyderabad, and other places. But Symbiosis Institutes in Pune, those SIBM, SMHRD, are really good B schools there. And if you have liking for advertising, it's not managing you a specialized management degree in advertising area. I think MICA, Mudra Institute of Communication Advertising, Ahmedabad is a very good B school. Similarly, if you like rural management, IRMA, Institute of Rural Management at Anand, is a very good B school. So these are some of the top B schools we have in India, right? So the next one is, what is the admission procedure for all these B schools? We talked about what are the top B schools in India. Now, what will be the admission procedure? We will discuss that in the next part. Yes, students, in this session, in this part, we will be looking at B school admission procedure. MBA colleges, what is the admission procedure in general for most of the B schools? There are two stages here. The first one is you have an entrance examination, a written test like CAT, XAT. I'll come back to those. What are those different entrance examinations? So first you have to clear the entrance examination and get shortlisted for stage 2. And as I said, I'll come back to these entrance examinations a little later. And next one is stage 2 will be you have group discussion, writing assessment, and personal interview. Here, a few B schools have got both group discussion and writing assessment tests. Some of them have only one of them. They will have either group discussion or writing assessment. Only a few B schools have both of them. Some of them, instead of a group discussion, they may have something called jam session, just a minute sessions. They may ask you to speak extempore. So these are all different extempore, jam, group discussion. These are all things that test your ability to present a particular topic with proper logical skills there. Next, writing assessment test also does the same thing, but it is in the written form there. And of course, personal interview to every B school will have a personal interview where your personality in terms of your thought process, what you've been, what have been your past achievements, what is your career goal, all these things will be, what is that you're looking from B school, and why you are coming to an MBA college, all that will be discussed in this personal interview. So these are the, as I said, Maybe all three, maybe only two of them will be there in some of the B schools. These are the two stages. Apart from that, and before that, one more thing I would like to tell you is, and those of you are preparing for B school admission, normally people only prepare for this entrance examination at this point in time. They think that let me get shortlisted for stage 2, then I will prepare for that. But students, you should believe that you are among the best, and you have to force it, you have to visualize that next year around this, you will be attending the interviews and then start preparing from now onwards. Why I tell you? See, the most of these B school admissions, I mean entrances, happen in November to January. The results will start coming in January or so. The written test results will come somewhere in December, Jan, and all that. The interviews will start, especially if you look at CAT, and the CAT results will come in Jan, and the interviews will start as early as February. And within the 20-25 days time, you can't really develop all these skills. So you have to keep preparing from now onwards. Start reading one very good business newspaper, or try to, because you need to, after all you are going for B school admission, you need to know something about business, some basic terminology, like what are the different industries, how they are doing, especially what's happening around the world, right? See, the other day I was conducting a mock interview. I asked the candidate, tell me three important things that happened in the last 10 days. That's how, when we give an interview, it's like free hit for the candidate. That's where he or she can talk about those three or four important points that he or she came across, and then the interview may be taken in that direction. And this particular candidate said, the first thing he said is, "Sir, yesterday India won a cricket match, one day match. Alright, out of 365 days, we are half the days, we are playing cricket. So that should not be a very important thing. It's like it's one day match. It's not even winning a World Cup there." Second point he said was, "Sir, so and so party in his state won a by-election, not even winning a state election." See, why an IIM professor is interested in knowing one particular seat by-election which party won. So there were so many issues around that time, like there was, the farmers protest happening. There were a lot of other things happening, but this particular guy, is only, is concerned about India's match or the local election there. So that gives an understanding of what's your worldview. So please do follow what's happening. What are the latest things in business? How pandemic is affecting business? So you need to understand those things, please. Whatever is happening. See, around that time when I was talking about the Myanmar coup happened, and he has no clue of what is that Myanmar coup. And if there was something happening in Russia there, the opposition leader was arrested and all that. See, there was no clue at all. So we need to know, because see, please understand, everything that happens around the world affects your business. And as a future business leader, you need to understand how the politics, business, different events that happen across the world will affect your business, right? So try to start reading, follow some important national, international events. Suppose recently the Suez Canal, the ship got stuck, how it affected business, what is the history of it. So please try to update yourself in that. So try to have a much larger worldview there, right? Okay. And uh, apart from this, there are a few other factors that also add weightage to your overall selection. What is this? Your past academic performance. Your starting from 10th, 12th, graduation, what's your academic performance? That also adds a few points. If someone has a great academic record, it's good. What if someone doesn't have a great academic record? Nothing to worry. Nothing to worry. See, the point is, still there are quite a few B schools that don't give so much weightage like some of the B schools give. If you have good academic record, it's good. If it is not so great, you can always do well in this written test, which is there, which is in your hand right now, which is in your control right now. You can do well there, get a few marks extra there, and try to offset that, whatever marks you are going to lose because of poor academic record there. Similarly, work experience. If you are a working guy, a few points are added. So that this is one question that I keep getting from my students. They say that, sir, is that, you need to have definitely work experience to be there in IIMs? Not necessary. If you have work experience, you get a few points. But if you look at more than 50% of the batch, the entire admissions that happened in the last year in IIMs are freshers. They don't have work experience. So the freshers are more than the guys who have got work experience in most of the B schools. So please remember, if you have that, it's good. If you don't have, you can always do well here and score those extra points. Right? Next one, extracurricular activities or co-curricular activities. Suppose you have achieved something that also gives you a few points in your overall selection. So these are some of those points that will add a few points to your overall selection criteria, right? Now, coming back to the entrance examination that I'm talking about, what are the important MBA admission tests that we have in India? So if you look at important B school or MBA entrance examinations, the first one is obviously CAT examination. CAT examination is an entrance, a common admission test, not only for the 20 IIMs. There are at least 70 out of top 100 B schools will take CAT score. The many B schools in India use CAT score. Like for example, IITs use CAT score. NITI uses CAT score. There are quite a few I can tell you which use CAT score. Similarly, Xavier admission test, which is an admission test for XLRI, XIM Bhubaneswar, but not only that, again, there are almost 60 to 70 very good schools are there which use XAT score. So please remember, the CAT and XAT are the two major B school entrance exams, but their scores are not only used by the respective institutions like IIMs or XLRI. So a lot of B schools use this CAT score. I mean, CAT score as well as XAT score. Some of them actually, there are a few B schools. If you write CAT or XAT, anything they will take basically, right? So that's why these two are the major entrances examinations. Apart from that, we have SNAP, which is an admission for symbiosis institutions like SIBM Pune, SMHRD, and all other symbiosis institutes. And there are quite a few B schools that also take SNAP score. NMAT, that is Narsi Monji Institute's admission test. So NMAT is for those NMMS Mumbai and other NMMS institutions across India there. And TISNET, the Tata Institute of Social Sciences, they have their own admission test, which is again for those Tata institutions there. IFT will conduct its own examination. CMAT, see, when you are looking at this kind of top 40, 50 B schools, I don't really suggest you that you should think about CMAT. Actually, CMAT was started initially way back, at one point in time, government wanted to have one entrance for every stream. Like, for example, for all medical entrances, they wanted NEET. So similarly, for engineering, they wanted ICIT. Similarly, for management entrance, B school entrances, they wanted one B school entrance called CMAT and started. But then IIM said they have their own admission. Some of the private B schools like XLRI, Symbiosis, they said they will have their own exam. They didn't join. That's why not many top B schools joined CMAT. Because not many top B schools joined CMAT, I am not really saying that that you should think about it. This CMAT, similarly MAT, which is conducted multiple times there. But these two are also admission tests. But when you are preparing for these level things, so these are relatively easier exams, and also admission also may be given to not so great B schools. There are good B schools still. I'm not saying there are no good B schools, but if you are looking at the top, apart from the top 30, 40 B schools, probably these are the first 4 or 5 exams are what you should look at it basically, right? Okay. The next one is, what is the eligibility? I mean, of course, apart from that, we also have state level entrance examinations. Like, because suppose every state has its own entrance exam, especially Maharashtra set, if you look at it, some of the B schools like JBIMS and other things, they give certain a few number of seats for the respective state level entrance called Mahaset. Similarly, in AP and Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, we have ISET examination. Those things also will give admission to the local colleges there. So these are some of the top B schools. Now the next one is, what is the eligibility criteria? So we'll spend more time on CAT. Our preparation for CAT automatically will take care of all other entrance examinations. Because your preparation for CAT takes care of all other entrance examinations, we will try to discuss about CAT examination in detail. First of all, so what is the eligibility to write the CAT examination? What is the eligibility criteria? Eligibility criteria for writing CAT examination is that any graduate with 50% marks can write this exam. Any graduate. So I mean, the CAT doesn't specify any background as such. Why I'm specifying this point, any graduate, I will tell you in one of the following videos. So with 50% marks, and this is for general candidates or OBC, non-creamy layer and EBC candidates. But candidates belonging to SC, ST and differently abled categories, 45% marks is what is required. And then the students who are in final year can also apply for CAT examination. In fact, there are quite a good number of students that I have come across every year. So they apply for CAT examination, they do well, and they straight away after the graduation get into a B school. So why I'm saying this is, as I said in the previous part, is it necessary that I should have work experience? While yes, of course, if you have work experience, as I said, it will add few marks, but there are quite a few students year after year I've been seeing for last 25 years where people from final year of their graduation get into a B school there, right? And the next question people have in mind is, what is the number of attempts that we have? So there is no restrictions on the number of attempts. Even today, I can write the CAT examination. At any number of times, I can write CAT examination. There is no restriction as such. And then coming to IIMs, I'm talking about only IIMs, not for every B school, please. The IIMs which are government institutions. So IIMs basically have reservation policy. What is the reservation in admission in IIMs? For OBC, I have 27%, that is non-creamy layer. SC 15%, ST 7.5%, different labeled 5%, and EWS we have 10% reservation there. So this is for admission for IIMs there, right? So the next one is, students, then what is the CAT examination pattern? We talked about eligibility. So then what is the CAT examination pattern? So we will discuss that in the next part. What is the pattern for CAT examination? CAT exam, if you look at the pattern last year, CAT 2020, we have 3-section paper. The exam is divided into 3 sections. 2 hours with the total exam time is 2 hours with section wise time limits. What I mean by that? See, sometimes CAT examination gives you, as I said, 3 sections. Every section they'll give you prescribed time, and within that time you should write that section. You can't, after that you can't come back to the first section. Sometimes they'll give you the entire paper and they'll prescribe the time, say 2 hours for the entire paper. Any number of times you can change the sections there. You can come from, after coming to this, you can go back to the first section kind of thing. But now it is not possible because it is section wise time limits. So the 3 sections, so I have VARC 26 questions we had in the last year's examination, and the time limit was 40 minutes. Verbal ability and reading comprehension. Then we have data interpretation and logical reasoning section. We had 24 questions, again 40 minutes time. And quantitative aptitude, we have 26 questions and 40 minutes. So total 2 hours with section wise time limits. And now there are multiple choice questions. See, a few years back, all CAT questions used to be only multiple choice questions. But last few years, there are 2 types of questions: multiple choice questions and non-MCQs, non-multiple choice questions, where you will be given a blank. You have to key in the answer there. And each question carries 3 marks. This is the marking pattern, scoring pattern. For every question, 3 marks are given. And for MCQ questions, if the answer is wrong, there is a penalty, negative mark of -1. But for non-MCQ questions, there is no negative marks. For non-MCQ questions, no negative mark. If the answer is wrong, there is no negative mark, right? That is about 2020. Let's take about 2019, 2018 and 2017. Again, these 3 years, the pattern is same. That's why I've taken all 3 years. You got 3 sections again. The exam time was 3 hours. Again, it was also with section-wise time limits. So the first section, VARC, verbal ability reading comprehension, we have 34 questions, 60 minutes time. DALR, data interpretation and logical reasoning, we had 32 questions and 60 minutes time. Quantitative ability, aptitude, 34 questions and 60 minutes time. So again, we had both the MCQ questions and non-MCQ questions. Scoring pattern is same as CAT 2020. That is, each question carries 3 marks. Each right answer gives you 3 marks. And in case of one wrong answer, there is a penalty or negative mark of -1 for wrong answer. In the case of MCQ questions, non-MCQ questions, as I said, there is no negative mark. So this is the CAT examination pattern, right? So there are 3 sections. First section is verbal ability reading comprehension. Second section is DA, data interpretation, logical reasoning. Third section is quantitative aptitude. Now the question is, many students will have, fine, this is the pattern, but is the CAT exam very tough to crack? Is it so tough? Right, so we'll discuss that. Is it tough to crack CAT exam? This is one question students always ask me. It is not as tough as it is perceived to be. Why I say as it is perceived to be? Because when you hear someone saying you need to score more than 99 percentile to get admission into some of those older IIMs, or to get admission into some of those other IIMs you need to score 95 percentile, or some of those non-IIMB schools you should score more than 90 percentile, or even to the new IIMs, you think that it is a very difficult task to achieve. But the numbers I've just referred to are percentile scores, not percentage scores. Then what is a percentile score? CAT website has a document which explains how percentile score is calculated. They use a formula which says that percentile score equals to n minus r by n into 100, where n is the number of test takers, r is the rank of the candidate. Let me explain this with an example. Suppose CAT 2020, let us assume the total test takers were around 2 lakhs. In one of the sections, because you have percentile score calculated for every section and overall also. So let me take one section quant. As per the marks they scored in this particular section, these 2 lakh students are given ranks first, 1, 2, 3 and so on. Now, then those ranks are converted into percentile. How? Let me explain. Let us say a particular student has got a rank of 1000. What is the percentile score of this candidate? If I apply this formula, n is 2 lakhs, r is 1000 by n 2 lakhs into 100. If you simplify, you'll get 99.5 percentile. When I say that you need to score 99.5 percentile, it looks as if it is very tough. When I say that you have to score 1000th rank out of 2 lakhs means, it may not sound so difficult, because some of you might have already experienced in your IIT JEE or in the respective state entrances for admission to undergraduation, where the number of test takers are much more higher than this 2 lakhs, and the people have to get a rank of 1000 or less than 1000 to get admission into some of those best colleges. So this is something that happens in every exam. Okay, suppose if a student has a rank of 10,000, and the percentile score will be, if you convert this percentile, it will be 95 percentile. A student with a rank of 20,000, percentile score will be 90 percentile. You can substitute these numbers in this formula and calculate. So when I say that you have to score more than 90 percentile to get admission into some of those, the new IIMs, or people call baby IIMs, or you need to score more than 95 percentile into some of those other IIMs, it looks very difficult. But tell me now, you have to score 20,000 rank to get a call from one of those baby IIMs, or a rank of 10,000 or better to get admission to some of those other IIMs, or to get a rank of 1000 or 1000 to 2000. 2000 will be a rank of 2000 will convert to 99 percentile. A rank of 1000, 2000 to get admission into some of those older IIMs, I don't think it sounds so difficult. That is part one. Part two is how much score, rather what percentage of score will give you these percentiles. We talked about how the rank or percentile is calculated. How many marks will result in these percentiles is what we will see in the second part. If you see the last 3 years data, CAT 2020, if you look at 85 percentile score, because IIM say that you need to score 85 percentile in every section to clear the sectional cutoff. So the sectional cutoff is 26. Someone who scored around 26 got 85 percentile. I'm taking on the higher side. 26 out of 78 is around 1/3, 33 percentage. 30 out of 75 is maybe around 35 to 40%. You can see 99 percentile, 43 out of 78 is a little above 50%. Right? You can see other sections also. You can pause the video, check the sectional scores and the corresponding percentiles and see what percentage marks are giving you. See, overall also you can check. Someone who gets 115 out of 228, that is around 50%. 50% score is in 99 percentile. So if you are scoring, or maybe here it's a little above 50 percentile, 50 percentage, I'm sorry. So if you are scoring around 50 percentage marks, you are there in that 99 percentile. Or if you are scoring anywhere around 45 to 50%, you can check, convert these numbers with respect to the maximum scores into percentage and check. The same is the case with the next year, the previous year 2019. You can see here, VARC is slightly higher scoring section. You can say maybe around 40% to get 85 percentile, maybe 62, around 62 out of 100 will be around 60 percentage. But other two sections, if you see, again the numbers are more or less same. 30 out of 100, around 30%. 40, you see 95 percentile, it's around 43 to 47 out of 100 means around 45 percentage. So if you are scoring around 45% marks, you are there in that 95 percentile category. If you are scoring anywhere around 55 plus, you are there in the 99 percentile. So if you have to score 55 to 60% marks to be there in the top league, is that tough to crack CAT exam, right? So even 2018 also will have the same scores. You can pause the video and check the scores there. So please remember, CAT exam is not as tough as it is perceived to crack, because when I say these percentiles into ranks, 90 percentile means is around 20,000 rank. 95 percentile is around 10,000 rank. So to get that, you need to score around 45%, roughly I'm talking about. Maybe to get the top 1,000, 2,000 candidates, 2,000 rank, you have to score around 55 percentage marks, 55 to 60% maximum. So please remember, I think this data will give you an understanding of the CAT exam is not as tough as it is perceived to crack. Then in the next part, we will be discussing what is the syllabus for this exam, where scoring 60% will put you in this league. So what kind of questions are asked? What is the syllabus? What are the different test areas? We'll be discussing in detail in the next part. Syllabus for CAT examination. What is the syllabus? Why, as we discussed in the previous session, why getting 50% score is a good score? 50-55% score you are getting, you are there in that 95-99 percentile category I said in the previous session. Why it is such a low scores gives you such a top higher ranks there? What is the syllabus? We will discuss this. Students, when I say that what is the syllabus, first of all, CAT never prescribes any syllabus. If you see the advertisement that CAT gives you, they don't say that what is the syllabus. Only when they talk about examination pattern, they will tell you there will be 3 sections and these are the test areas. Like as I told you already in one of the earlier videos, like VARC 1 section, LRDA 1 section, Quant 1 section, but they don't prescribe any syllabus as such. In fact, I tell you students, there is no syllabus as such, to be very honest, whether it is Quant or LRDA or English. It only tests the student's ability to think, the student's ability to solve problems, to solve puzzles. So this is the syllabus. So whether whatever topics they use are only instruments in checking the student's inherent strength of logical skills there, basically, right? But however, based on the previous year exams, we can have a broad range of the topics from where we get questions, right? Based on the questions in the previous year exams, we can estimate the range of topics. We'll start with quant because that's the bigger area. We have quite a few topics. So I will divide this quant questions into few areas like arithmetic, algebra, kind of stuff. If you look at arithmetic, see the topics I have: ratio, proportion, variation, percentages, profit and loss, simple interest, compound interest, averages, mixtures, allegations, time and work, speed, time and distance. If you look at these topics, see the number of questions we have. As I said, CAT 20, we had 26 questions of quant. CAT 1918, we have 34 questions of quant. If you see, students, we have 9 to 10 questions out of 26, means is almost to 40%. Or if you look at, see, 12 to 14 questions means 12 to 14 questions out of 34 is again around 40%. So 40% of the quant section is arithmetic. Arithmetic topics like ratio, proportion, these are all something that you might have learned in 7th standard or 8th standard in your school days. The concepts that required to solve these questions that you get here, probably you might have learned 7th standard, 8th standard. But I'm not trying to make it so light saying that a student of 7th standard or 8th standard can write CAT. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying, students, is when you, if you go through the 7th, 8th standard syllabus, all the required concepts to crack CAT examination you have, concepts you have. But what is required is a problem solving skills. As I said in the previous part, you need to have a very good problem solving skills. A 7th standard student or a 10th standard student cannot solve these questions because they require much higher problem solving skills. One of the following videos, we will try to discuss what I mean by that, how a question will be given from 8th standards topic and how it can be really made complex there. Or I tell you, students, in my channel you will find a playlist of previous CAT questions. You select these topics and see the questions that are given. You have more than 100 questions in that playlist. You can see the questions from these topics, how the concepts are simple, but how CAT frames questions from these topics, right? So 40% of your CAT questions come from arithmetic topics in quant section. And as I said, students, if you are getting around 50% to 55%, you are there in the 90 percentile, 95 to 99 percentile category, I said. So students, now tell me, if especially I am talking about non-math students will keep telling me, sir, I am not good in maths. So do you think that I can do well? See, every time I take a quant class, I get lot of questions like this. I get lot of mails after the first class. Sir, I am not math student. I left my maths there. Do you think that I can really do? Can you give me your honest reply? My honest reply is, students, as I said some time back, you please note down, I said CAT exam eligibility criteria is that any graduate can write. When I say that any graduate can write, it doesn't matter what background you come from. So there is no specific advantage to people of one particular background as such, because these are all elementary mathematics. First of all, I can't call it mathematics, right? Okay, so that's the first part. Second one, if you look at topic like numbers, second is numbers, basic numbers, different types of numbers, the rules with respect to numbers. Numbers is a very important area for CAT examination. In fact, last 3-4 years we had less number of questions from this area. We can see here it is around, as I said, 4 out of 26. It's around 20%, 15 to 15% probably. You can see in the previous years also it's around 3 or 4 out of 34, means is around 10%. Traditionally, students, numbers will be having 15% to 20%. Again, number of prime numbers, composite numbers, number of factors, related rules, LCM, HCF, all those things come under numbers concepts there. Again, you learned in school days. It used to be 15 to 20%. Maybe last 3 years, the weightage of numbers has come down a bit by to 10 to 15%. But traditionally, it used to be 15 to 20, sometimes even more than 20% also. Right? Okay, next. Geometry. When I say geometry, please remember, many students actually they say that they are not comfortable with geometry, but please understand, you don't have to draw any geometrical figures, you don't need to prove any theorem, all that. See, some basic concepts on geometry, especially like lines, angles, triangles, quadrilaterals, circles, if you can learn some basic concepts, it's all about problem solving skills. Why geometry is important for not just for CAT, any entrance exam is geometry tests students' ability to visualize. See, whenever a question is given, you have to visualize the diagram. A triangle, if I say there is a point inside the triangle, suppose when I say that, you should be able to visualize the diagram and solve the question. So that is why it is, again, it's about problem solving skills. If you learn all the basic concepts up to 10th standard, you have all the required knowledge to crack geometry questions, all the required knowledge. But as I said, you need to develop the problem solving skills, right? You can see geometry again is very important. 15% to 20% of your quant will come from geometry here, quant questions. Now, so we said 40% of arithmetic, 10 to 15% minimum of numbers, 15 to 20% of geometry. These are all school level things only, right? And next one, algebra. When I say algebra, please understand, I'm not talking about the complex algebra of vectors, all that they will give you. It's not that, please. It's the basic things, simple equations, solving two simple equations like 2x plus 3y, 3x plus 5y. He may not give you to solve two simple equations, but he will tell you a story where the concept involved will be behind that will be solving two simple equations. If you have a doubt, as I said, go to that playlist. You will see a couple of questions on simple equations, how it is given. Simple equation, something you might have learned in 7th standard. Similarly, quadratic equations and cubic equations and all that, the basic formula and all that, finding number of factors, nature of those roots and all that will be is what is required. See, please remember, for algebra, there will not be, see, if you know the basic concept, that's enough. They may not really, they may not really go very deep into the topic there. See, algebra questions are pure mathematics questions. Then if you know the basic formulae, basic rules, you can solve the question. Actually, arithmetic questions is where actually the concept is simple, but they try to give you more logic based questions there, right? Logarithms, for example, if you look at logarithms last 3 years, they are giving regularly questions there. And when you say those 10 basic formulae of logarithm, like you learn, like log mn is equal to log m plus log n kind of stuff, you can solve questions on logarithms, those basic 10 rules. Similarly, indices, there are some basic 7-8 rules like a power m into a power n is a power m plus n kind of stuff. Those basic rules, if you learn, you can solve the questions there. See, we have around 10 out of 24, 26 last year. Usually, logarithms, algebra will be around 20% of your CAT examination. But the questions, difficulty level of the questions is not very big. Please understand that. Normally, the moment I say algebra, non-math students will go wrong. Again, you see the questions in algebra in that playlist that I'm talking about, how easy questions will be. If only you, with an open mind, you attempt it, the questions will be very easy. Next, modern maths. When I say modern maths, it is like sequences and series, or we can say progressions, geometric progression, arithmetic progression, those things, and different types of series questions, permutations, combinations questions, probability questions. Again, not very deep into the concept. They test basic students' ability to analyze, to think logically, the arrangements, how many 4-digit numbers I can have, how many 5-digit numbers I can have, how many ways I can choose a particular color ball out of so many balls. So these basic questions will be given there. So this is usually around usually around 10% of your CAT paper, around 10% there. And sometimes some miscellaneous things like one odd question of statistics, operator based questions. Operator based questions means you will say A star B means A square minus B square. A, A delta A dollar B means A square plus B square. Like that, he'll give some conditions and give you operator based questions there, statistics. See, you find hardly one odd question of statistics sometimes, but not regularly there, right? Mean, mode, and all that. But they don't go very deep into, standard deviation, kind of stuff there, right? So this is about the quant there. Next one, DILR. If you look at data interpretation, it can be divided broadly into two types: calculation based DI, logic based DI. Calculation based DI, if I look at it, there are few basic things like tables, bar diagrams, line graphs, pie charts, the different types of diagram where it is basically on caselets where the data is not structured. So here, basically these kind of questions will test you, your calculation ability, your computation ability. See, it's not that, most of your questions will be, this kind of thing. You get one set, but if you are doing one set, the 4 questions, 4 3 is 12 marks. 12 out of, say, 12 out of 96 is around 12%. I said if you are getting around 25%, 30%, you are getting that 85 percentile category, I said. So this always helps you whenever you can attempt these questions. It helps you to clear the sectional cutoff easily there. Next, logic based DI, the reasoning based DI questions, tournaments and championships like Wimbledon tournament, which is a knockout tournament, or rather a cricket World Cup, which is a round robin tournament kind of things, IPL. So these things will be discussed here. Then they'll give you questions like networking diagrams, three-dimensional diagrams. Then we have questions like maxima, minima. These are all different types of logic-based DI questions. Now, students, next one is logical reasoning. Logical reasoning, traditionally we have questions like linear arrangements, circular arrangements, Venn diagram based questions, analytical reasoning puzzles or grid puzzles we call it. Like so many, there are 5 students wearing 5 different color hats, riding 5 different color bikes, studying in 5 different colleges. So these are all, you have to make the grid there. So these are all some of those traditional reasoning questions and DI questions. But however, students, binary logic, truth, someone is saying truth, someone is speaking always lies, someone speaks truth or lie alternately. These are all binary logic questions there. Students, this is the traditional LRDI. But if you look at last 3 years, the LRDI section has been completely different. He is giving questions where you have to use multiple reasoning concepts to solve the questions there. So you'll be giving the data, you have to plug in something, you have to bring in some other logic, try to do it. It's not the traditional this LRDI question that you are finding in the last 3 years, right? However, these basic concepts, that if you are clear, these things will help you to answer those questions that I'm referring to, which are non-traditional questions. This helps you to answer those questions properly there. So that's the reason you cannot really predict what kind of puzzle he will give you in LRDI. You can see every puzzle in the last 3-4 years looks different, right? But your ability to understand these kind of reasoning based questions or DI questions will lay platform, will give you some basic approach to solve these kind of questions that I'm talking about, innovative puzzles that have been appearing in the last 3-4 years. Next one is VARC. If you look at VARC, reading comprehension, if you look at, we have bulk of the questions 18 out of 26 here. Or if you look at here, 24 out of 34. So bulk of the questions are coming from reading comprehension. Verbal ability questions are 3 types: para formations, odd one out, and para summary. So para formations means he will give you a few statements. You have to make the correct order connection so that it becomes a meaningful passage or paragraph. Similarly, when you are given a few statements, you have to find the odd one out. And para summary is you have to make a conclusion or summary of the paragraph there. So these are this they test more of your reasoning. I can say I can call this as actually verbal reasoning. So if you have critical reasoning, if you are good at critical reasoning, these things will help you. So it's not traditional grammar, vocabulary kind of thing, please. So CAT has moved from traditional grammar, vocabulary kind of thing to more reasoning based questions in English, right? So this is about VARC students. This is the basically syllabus. If you see the syllabus, so it's not that you want to be really so great in English, because see, when I say so great in English, I need to have so much of vocabulary, I need to be very good grammar. No, it's not required. It's about your ability to think rationally, to think logically is what is tested, whether it is VARC, whether it is DI, or whether it is quant. So now tell me, does it matter what background a student is from, whether it is engineering or non-engineering or whatever background, doesn't matter, right? And it doesn't favor really one particular group of people, please. So if you I've explained you in the previous session on how CAT exam, I mean, what is the cutoff marks, how CAT exam is a traditionally low scoring examination. And here, students, I have tried to give you the syllabus, and you can see that the syllabus is all school level syllabus, but the concepts, I mean, the concepts are also school level, but the skill set that is required to solve the questions is something you require there, basically, right? So this is about the syllabus, students. The next one is how to prepare for CAT examination or how to get a higher percentile. So this is, there are three stages procedure, three-step process. The first one is you need to concentrate on your basics the initial couple of months, because your questions in CAT require strong foundation in the basics. Because once you have strong foundation in the basics, you'll be able to take them to the next level and think logically, right? You can't simply by heart something and do it. Maybe few algebra questions you can do that, but not other questions there. So you need strong foundation. Most of the time students ignore this part. You start preparing straight away, practicing mock papers, and then you will end up spending more time for questions, you go wrong, and then you start getting self doubts about your ability. Please understand, first things first, you need to start with basic concepts. Many a time we ignore this portion, we ignore preparing for basic things. We are reluctant to do basic things. I was going through a story where the commander in chief of a particular country uh, got some sickness. So he went to the king and say that he is ill. The king actually tells him that there is one person with some special powers, a prophet kind of thing, who can heal you out of your sickness. And with a recommendation letter, he sends this commander in chief to that prophet. So this commander in chief goes to the prophet's place and waits outside, thinking that the prophet will come outside because he's the commander in chief of the country's army. So welcome him and perform some kind of ceremony and heal him. But the commander, the prophet will not even come out. The prophet sends his assistant and tells, "You go and have a bath in a nearby river." You will just tell them, you go and have a bath in nearby river, you will get healed. So this guy, this commander in chief's ego gets hurt and says that, no, don't we have rivers in my place, water in my place? Should I simply have come and bath here? And he refuses to do that and was about to go back. Then see, sometimes small people will have more common sense. The one of the small assistants of this commander in chief says, "My lord, if the prophet suppose asked you to perform a very complicated ritual for 1 week, don't you think that you would have done? You would have done, right? But he's asking, after all, to go and have a bath in the nearby river. So it's a very simple thing he's asking. Why not we do it?" So then he tries to impress upon him to have the bath. He has the bath and he gets healed. So the point here in the story is, students, when someone asks you to do some simple things, you don't do it, you take it light, right? Someone asks you, you have to read this book, you have to master this big task. If you give, you will take it up, right? So please understand, your success in CAT is all about doing simple things perfectly. So please practice the basic concepts in every area, whether it's quant or DA or LR. Please do that. Second one is practice good number of questions so that you get familiar with the concepts and style of questions. Students, see, the practice is the key. You learn basics here, you have to put them to use and practice good number of questions so that your speed will increase first. Second, as you keep practicing these questions, once you are comfortable, then you start thinking differently. Initially what happens is your approach is somehow to get answer, but once you get used to the concepts, then you will start thinking differently, and it enhances your logical skills, right? That is very important. Please see, uh, I can tell you, Sachin Tendulkar and one of his friends who also started career along with Sachin Tendulkar had a very short career because the person was not practicing good before the match. But whereas Sachin Tendulkar, even after 20 years, or even after his last innings out, used to discuss how he got out, or how he should have played the shot, kind of thing. So that practice is the key, students, right? So please do practice good number of questions to increase your speed and logical ability. And finally, you have learned the basics, you have put them to use, then actually test yourself, then write good number of mock tests. This makes you to get used to the test environment. One second thing is, as I said, students, getting through CAT is not very tough because you have to get only around 50% marks. Means you can that means if you are attempting anywhere around 60 to 65% of the paper with a good accuracy rate, I think you will get those required marks. So students, so that means you can leave 30-35% of the paper. So when you can leave 30-35% of the paper, the questions that you leave should be by your choice, they should not be by default. What I mean by that is, every time you read a question, you should decide whether I should read it, I should solve it, or I should leave it. If you can make this kind of judgment for every question, like a selection of question that either to answer it or attempt it or to leave it, if you can make it, I think your success rate will be high. So as you do more and more mock tests, your ability to judge the question whether it is doable or not doable will increase, your selection of questions will be good, and that actually increases your score in the examination. So please do these three steps, I think you will do well. And I'm saying that getting through 99 percentile in CAT is not as difficult as it appears. I'm not saying 100 percentile, because while 100 percentile can be obtained, but what I'm saying is very few people, anything plus 99 plus is close to 100. So these are the three-step approach. If you are following, you will definitely get that 99 percentile plus even 100 percentile. So now the point is, I'll just sum up with one interesting quote from Michael Johnson, which is one of the great athletes. You can see he's a sprinter. What he said is, life is often compared to a marathon, but I think it is more like being a sprinter. Long stretches of hard work, punctuated by brief moments in which we are given the opportunity to perform at our best. That's what happens. Sprinters for an Olympic 100-meter race, for 4 years they practice, but at the end of this, in 10 seconds or 12 seconds, 11 seconds, the fate is decided, right? So life is also like that. So you have to have long stretches of hard work, not only hard work, I'll say smart work, right? Smart work. And whenever you are given opportunity to write an exam, that 2 hours or 3 hours is the brief moments which you are given the opportunity to perform at your best. That's what you should do. I'm saying smart work because many students will come back and say, sir, I'm not able to spend enough time on the preparation. What is the enough time for examination? There is no such thing. That it's not that you should read every day 4 hours or 6 hours or 8 hours. Whatever amount of time you can do, please do smart work. Try to have a little analytical study there. What I have done, where I am going wrong, how I can improve, what mistakes I have done yesterday, am I repeating the same mistakes? Try to analyze your performance. And one more thing is see, we are talking about three sections: quant, VARC, and LRDI. See that you are in constant touch with each of these three sections, at least if not every day, at least once in 2 days. At least if you can spend half an hour or 1 hour, see that you are stay in touch. I say this: suppose some of you are working weekdays, you can't do it. Weekends I'll practice the whole day. Again next weekend I'll do. Means it's like learning your driving your car. When you start driving your car, learning, so if you practice on Sunday and next Sunday again you start doing it, you will get touch with that. Every day if you practice for a few minutes, you will get used to that. That's what happens here also. So students, I wish you all the best, and we'll keep posting regular videos on all the basic concepts. You can see there is a playlist on numbers, there is a playlist on simple equations, speed mass is there, percentages is there, profit and loss, time and work. All the see in my channel you will find all the quant videos and also the previous year cat questions there, right? And once quant is done, we'll try to post even LRDI sets also in the website. So please do subscribe to my channel, and you can also find my profile at Udemy, where I got quite a few courses, comprehensive courses on quant topics you have. You can make use of them. Thank you.